The duck is back. The duck is back. That's a fact. Been busy as usual. So I went to do this last night, and yeah, it just didn't happen. But anyway, I know you all been missing me like a hole in the head. So I got a couple of things. I just managed to get back to this bike, the dreaded iron horse chopper, and there was a couple of things I wanted. As a mechanic or engineer, sometimes I like to look at the manuals and refresh my brain as to how things are done, especially if it's been a while since you've done it. And anyway, in the manual I noticed I come across something that I hadn't come across before in my other manuals, and that was this thing here. And I've made this out of a bit of just see if I can zero it on it. See? And that little thing, what they say is, so this is the lifter blocks in here, and they say that bolt, you put that little gizmo that I made, you put it in that hole there, and then that lines up the lifter block. That lines up the lifter block to get the other 3 screws and bolts, not screws, and then you tighten these 3 up and then remove the guide and put the bolt in there and torque it up. So and the reason, the technical reason for that is that that's the system that they've devised to get that block running perfectly square with the camshaft, right? And if you don't do that, you have the ability, those lifter blocks can actually move right and left. Not a hell of a lot. I must admit, this is the first time I've done that sort of venture. But as always, you know, when these people pay a lot of money for these machinery, they sort of expect you to follow the manual, you know, the procedure, the proper procedure. And if you haven't got it, if you're not going to do it, well, why bother doing it? You know, because a lot of times it comes back and bites you in the bum. So that was the first one I made, and then you can see on the top of it here. Where are you? On the top of it here, I had it quite. The rod went up, but then I couldn't get my fat fingers on it to turn it, because on an S&S the fins come out and make it a bit closer to the lifter block from the barrels. So I tapped the other end and then put this cap head in, and that it just made it so much easier to wind in. And the other thing that I wanted to show you is a little bit of gadgetry, and of course is this thing, right? Okay, I'm sure I've shown you this before, and this is a, I don't know what, I think it's got to be a spring drive or something like that. And basically, this is the tool that I use inside vehicle doors and that. And you'd probably have to ring up, but basically, if you look at this thing, right, you can do this. See, and when because you can turn it and then turn the. You see, you can imagine the possibilities for getting into these mongrel places. And of course, that's what I used. And then the Allen key on the end. See, it's just a little, oh, you're off the scale. Little 1/4 inch drive. Yeah. So that was the first thing I made. The next problem I had was because this engine is not long been reconditioned or done up, and the reason why this engine blew up is because it had those short pipes what pretty much come out of the head. I think I've told you this before. It comes out of the head, and they just sort of come out of the head like that, turn, and then they point down to the ground. I thought I might even have an old one. I did have an old one kicking around. Anyway, I don't recommend those exhausts, if you know the ones I mean. The biggest reason what I don't like about them is that they're in your ear, right? And I've talked about this before, is that when it comes to exhaust, you've got to have the noise behind you, back here. If it's in your ear and hey, the sound of the sound of the engine sounds neat. I like it too. But when there's a problem with the engine and you're having a Chernobyl, and I call them a Chernobyl because it's like a nuclear meltdown. It starts off with something small and then it gets worse and worse and then kaboom, And I've had, in the last 2 years, I had a bike not so long back, and he had the same thing. He had the same pipes in his ear, couldn't hear the engine, and he drove it and rode it and rode it. And what had happened is that the bearings had gone in the lifter blocks, and then he didn't hear it, and then all the bearings fell out of the lifter blocks, then went round in the timing case, the gear case, which is where the cam is. Then the needles probably dropped down into the oil pump, which we know stuffed the oil pump. But the thing is, because of those pipes, the rider can't hear that there's something going wrong. So my personal opinion is, if you're going to have loud pipes, fine, set them up so you can still hear your engine. And that is, what I do with the pipes is try to make them 1 inch, the outlet 1 inch behind that rear axle, right? And then that gets it. So you sit here, that gets it behind you, and then you can hear the engine. Back to what I was saying with this. This is the nose cone off the bike, and when I pulled it off, I noticed the seal what's in here, there was oil on it, and my suspicions And you know how my suspicions are, like a bit like the suspicions with the oil pump, you know, they said they'd put a new oil pump in it. Yeah, right. They can't fix the clutch properly, they're not going to put a new oil pump into it, right? So this is the nose cone and this is the oil seal, right? And what you notice in here, I don't know if you can, I'll try and show you. I don't know if I can do this, but I'll try and, I don't know if you can see that, but I'll get a pointer. Now see this here, right? That little chamfer there, that is the guide to get that seal to start in there, right? And this goes in there and it's down in there, man, and it's a tight fit. I can tell, sorry, that fits down in there, see? And then you need, look, you know, lots of guys will tell you, oh, you just use a socket and you tap it in there. Yeah, that's good. But where I live, right, if you bugger a gasket like that, right, you bugger a gasket seal like that, it's a day to order it and then another day to turn up. And then for me, I got to go into town and get it. And that's a 15-minute drive. That's a half-hour turn down. So you're talking about the whole job coming to an end for 2.5 days, right? Before you're back on the job. So what I decided was that I would make a tool, and you knew that was coming, eh? I'm going to make a tool, not the one in my pants. And what I've done, that seal, I should just take that seal off because I feel like it's going to bugger it. Yeah, I'll do that after if I need to. So what I've done, is I've made this, right? So this is I've made this. It goes on there, right? This is a piece of water pipe. Now I machined this side for this end, but I cocked up the measurements and you see it was too wobbly, right? So I've done the other end, right? I've put that on there, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the guide, this bearing in here, right? This brass bearing in here is going to be the guide, right? And then this, I've done this end, but it's a bit sloppy, but right? So that fits in there, see? And that's the guide, right? And then this one will be the one what pushes the seal in, you see? And what I'm going to do, is I'm going to put this on here, right? And I'm going to weld it. I'll weld it, probably stitch weld it around there, right? And then machine this final skim. It's got like 0.2 of a mil down, and then on here, on our seal, right, you can see here, see that this washer thing that I made is nearly the same size as this seal, right? And then what I'll do in here is machine this. I'll machine this here so that seal sits in there. So if you see here, there's a little curve. Right, there's a little curve here. And what I'm going to try and do is machine this curve into here, you see? So this will be flat and then there'll be a little curve there. So it supports it all the way out to the edge, right? And then once I've done that, I'll get another piece of flat or something, and I'll put that on the top and weld it, something to tap it with the hammer. Okay, so that's the plan. That's the plan for that. And the reason why I'm doing this now is because the owner of this bike is happy. The customer, he's happy with what I'm doing. He's quite happy me using his bike to make these bits up to do the job properly. Now the next thing I wanted to show you, is the nose cone remover, right? And my old nose cone remover, it wasn't that good, so I've decided to make a new one. And even though this is less, it's all Evo, you know, single cam, right? So what I'm going to do, what the nose cone remover does, it's basically a giant washer what goes in here, right? And then you put the screws through here, and then you push off, you give it a little nudge off the end of the cam, and it pushes the nose cone off the engine. And that's how you get the nose cone off without damaging it. And this is it here. This is why I wanted to do it last night, because it's so bright in here now. I struggle even to see anything. So hopefully you can see that. Those are the two line-up holes for put the screws through. This is the thread, and I've threaded it into this plate. I like to do that way you get that bolt nice and square, the nuts nice and square. That's ready for welding. I just got to go zip, run round that with the welder, cut it out with the grinder roughly, or cut this out roughly with the grinder, and then I'll put it in the lathe, and I'll grab this nut with the jaw of the lathe, see? And then I'll spin the outside of it down. I've got a rough mark here. Once I get it down to this mark, then I'll use my digital verniers to get it so it just is a nice, neat, snug fit into that. And then for the pusher tool, I'm going to use this bit of threaded rod. This is high tensile threaded rod. You're ever going to make anything for bikes or doing anything with, use high tensile rod. don't ever use mild steel, right? Because it just snaps and breaks. And I'll zap that up and do that, and I'll show you the end results of that. Anyway, waffling on, and the new workshop with a Novalite in it is just amazing. And we've gone literally from like winter to scorching hot summer here in about 2 weeks. It's just been incredible. So anyway, I'm going to get on with this, and then I'll do a quick video of the end result of them, and then maybe tomorrow I might do a demonstration of putting that seal in with that new tool, and you'll get a first-hand view of why I done it. And the thing is, once this tooling is done, same deal again, you know. And I know this job will come in again. It just goes without saying. And you seem to have runs of it, you know. Like with me mate and Pyro, Giant, we just had a run of clutch jobs, you know, just, you know, and you'll have a run of them. So and then you probably find something will happen with someone else's bike now, and they'll go, oh, we'll shoot that round to the duck. Oh, and the final thing I wanted to say too is that I was speaking to a manager, and where was it, in Australia, over a bike shop, and I says to him, oh, surely a particular problem. I says, surely you'll have one of your technicians I could talk to about this problem. And he turned around to me, he says, no, Duck, no. He says, it's too old. And which really made me think, because the mechanics, obviously, from what he was saying to me, is that the mechanics in the shops are only dealing with the very late model stuff. Anything old, they don't touch. They don't seem to get it. They haven't got the experience. They don't have the manuals, and they certainly probably wouldn't have the tooling, which is interesting if you're got an Evo bike, which, even though this S&S is a late model engine, they're still making them. That it's too old. They got the tooling to do these bikes, you know? Probably not. And then you got to wonder, if they haven't got the experience and they probably haven't got the tooling, if I give them the job, how are they going to do it? You know, like, anyway, I thought it was interesting. Anyway, waffling long. Have a good one. Later.